Welcome to Tech Tuesday. My name is Abbie Richie. I'm the CEO and founder of Senior Savvy, and you can find me right here every Tuesday talking with people who are engaged in the age tech innovation space. Before I bring on my guests, let's go ahead and run the intro. Welcome back to Tech Tuesday. I'm so glad that you're here. And if you're in the audience right now and you're watching us, we're going to be monitoring your questions. So please go ahead and put them in the chat. I want to go ahead and bring my guest on today. I have got Ken Honeycutt. Ken, welcome to Tech Tuesday. Please introduce yourself to our audience and let us know what you're involved in, please.
Thanks, Abbie. Very nice to be here and I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about Samsung Health and the Samsung Health House. I am the director of commercialization for Samsung Health. Been with the company now about 4 years and 30 years plus in the healthcare IT space.
Okay, wonderful. So for those of you who've been following along, you may have known that I did a segment of from the Samsung house at CES, and truly it just caught my eye the minute I walked into the exhibit and saw the AARP AgeTech exhibit there. I was just like, ooh, what's this? And I hopped in there, took a look around. I quickly met Ken, and we may have been the first ones on the floor that morning. And I was just blown away and recorded 2 TV segments from the Samsung home and health home. And so Ken, tell us about the origins, please, of that home.
Yeah, so I think it's really helpful to share a little bit about Samsung Health and the fact that it's a really new formed business unit. We started this group back in the beginning of 2023, kind of with the charter or the mantra to create a trusted and holistic, and I'll say easy experience for consumers to be able to maintain and improve their health. And we want to do that along with those that are, their loved ones and their caregivers. And that's really the beginning point of this.
And so how did you find yourself at the AARP exhibit?
Yeah, so this conversation with AARP probably started about a year ago, where we ideated with them and said, what are the areas where consumers, and especially those that are seniors, as well as their caregivers, struggling with. And we discovered that having an array of apps that are related to health and, for example, health devices has become really challenging. And we've decided we're going to go after this space to create what I would call the connective tissue between disparate single point solutions. So we do this through kind of a single dashboard view of both data and device information. And through that data, we can leverage it to create some unique insights and nudges and interventions for consumers and their caregivers. So that's kind of the genesis of how we landed with AARP, as well as we're an enterprise partner of AARP and ATC, which is the AgeTech Collaborative.
Great, great. So do us a favor, please. Just take us through the health home and walk us through it and talk to us about some of the innovative products that you were featuring this year.
Yeah, so I would say that we at Samsung Health focus on the home market, so a bit of a grounding information piece, and that starts with aging in place or aging at home. And we know that based upon AARP surveys, that 77% of older adults want to age at home and discover how age tech can make it easier. So we have other business units that handle hospitals and the acute care space, which include displays and mobile solutions and imaging and other products. But we tackle the home space. I also want to make sure that, for the CES purposes, we were doing this in a joint collaboration with AgeTech Collaborative, which AgeTech Collaborative is a innovation and incubation arm of the AARP. They have a portfolio of 120, maybe 150 age tech companies at this point. So we were curating out of that group the companies that we saw that we thought brought value. It doesn't mean that those that were not included didn't bring value, but we thought that would bring value based on some of the core um, measurements that we were looking for, some of the core attributes that we were looking for, which would be discrete and non-invasive methods of being able to collect that information. So at CES, for those that were not able to attend, we built a 25 by 25 home that was comprised of 4 primary areas or rooms. So that was a living room, a bedroom, a bath, and a kitchen. So if you would like, I'm happy to go into the various products that were in there.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go ahead
Yeah, so
and do that.
absolutely. So it was basically broken up into 2 segments. One is obviously there's Samsung products, and I'll speak to those first, and then I'll roll over to a handful of the other companies, the ATC companies that were in there. So first is Smart Things. That's a Samsung solution. It's our Internet of Things, or our IoT platform, and it really creates the foundation by which all of the solutions connect. We also had a TV with a webcam, and I can't overstate the importance of the display in this setting for an array of uses, whether it be telehealth, telemed, family visits, family communication, and the ability to display information in a form factor that many in this age population are very comfortable with.
100%. And also for the TV, it happens to be one of the biggest, display areas in someone's home. It's just like, it's such a big area to display. It's something, like you said, that older adults are already comfortable with. And now you're adding a camera to it, which I think up until this point has been something that hasn't been added.
Yep. Well, we're also very sensitive to the fact of privacy, and the cameras that we recommend or suggest have a privacy screen on them, meaning that's a physical slide that blocks out the camera. So while not in use, it cannot be used for nefarious purposes. So we are very sensitive to privacy concerns. And as I mentioned, that discrete non-invasive method, we're also very much not in favor of cameras in the home. I can speak for my own parents, who I happen to be the primary caregiver for. That is going to be a challenge if I were to ask to put cameras in to be able to monitor. So,
okay, so you've walked us inside. We're in the entry area. We talked about the smart home. We talked about the TV. What else is in the entry area, or as we walk through the house, that is part of the dashboard and part of the sandbox in that arena?
yeah, so maybe to finish up on the Samsung products, we
Mhm.
have a refrigerator,
Uh-huh.
which actually has a camera built in with AI. So think about the ability to take the items that are in your refrigerator and design recipes based on your dietary needs. That's a
Finally.
Yes, there's a capability of doing that now with the Samsung bespoke product line. There's some other solutions. For example, our watch product was in there, which our watch now has the ability to detect AFib, or irregular heartbeat.
Okay, what
We
is the
also,
name of the watch product?
yeah, so it's Samsung Galaxy Watch 6.
Okay.
The
And
the same watch also now has, as of this week, sleep apnea detection, which both of those are software as a medical device platform. So the watch itself is not, but the software functionality is.
And I noticed when I was in there that there's technology built into the stove range as well as the microwave. Could you tell me about that, please?
Yeah, so for safety purposes, we cannot use voice for the microwave or stove to be
Okay.
able to cut it on and off, but we can for lights and fans, those
Mhm.
types of things, right? That don't have a heating component to it. So absolutely, there was our voice enabled technology for stove and microwave in there.
And I want to backtrack just a minute to the refrigerator. How unique is
Yeah.
that feature of being able to look into your refrigerator, keep a list, and also come up with a recipe? Is that a newer feature?
So the ability to look into the refrigerator is not necessarily, totally novel. However, the ability to take that information and leverage that to be able to create those recipes based upon your dietary needs, that is unique.
I love it. I love it. And for those of you that are just joining us right now, and if you do have any questions whatsoever, we're going to take your questions towards the end of the show today, but please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll be monitoring them. Okay, so Ken, we went through the entry, we went through the kitchen. Anything else inside the kitchen? Any other connective tissue apps that we need to be talking about before we move on to the bedroom and the bathroom?
Yes, no. So I would say that that pretty much covers the items that were from Samsung. And of course, we teased last month the coming of our Ring product. More details to follow on that one. Unable to speak more than that at this point, but
Right.
it was announced last month that
Mhm.
we will have a Ring product that will have some of the same functionality that you would find in our watch solution.
Excellent, excellent. I'll be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sorry, please go ahead.
No, I was going to maybe move to some of the AgeTech Collaborative companies
Mhm.
that are in those areas or those rooms that you were referencing. One of there's three I'm probably going to pull forward in it. They're kind of like children. I'm not supposed to have favorites, but I kind of do.
Uh-huh.
The Kasana Smart Toilet Seat is one of those that is just an aha moment where
Mhm.
it's a it is a form factor in a location that is ubiquitous and allows you to be able to collect heart rate and O2 information about a consumer, and that information is provided up to either the caregiver or to the clinical team. In addition, they're working on blood pressure as well. That's not FDA cleared at this point, based on my most recent conversations. It's forthcoming. So not to have to use a blood pressure cuff and to be
Mhm.
able to use something that is non-invasive to do blood pressure is really an interesting use case. So
It really is. And for those of you who have been with us for a while, you'll know that I covered toilet tech a couple months ago. It's like, I just think it is fascinating. It's one of those things that we should be talking more about. I love to uncover places and that we're all going to regularly. And I really think that the toilet's going to be the next lab. Because it's in our house. We are all going to it. It's just collecting data on us in a very
in a very
smart
smart
way.
way.
Hmm.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Kind of through the whole house, we have a company called MyCare that we have brought in as well. I think of it as a preventative home-based care platform. It utilizes an AI coach and it
Mhm.
equips caregivers with data-driven insights. They actually have I'll say it's called the MyCube. Their verbiage is Monica, the naming of it, and it empowers them to have for self-care at home by voice and leveraging that AI. So think about digital therapeutic delivery, hydration and medicine adherence,
Now,
health literacy.
oh,
Yeah,
I wanted to ask you, so is this also incorporated, like you mentioned dehydration. So does my care and the refrigerator, do they connect and talk with each other?
they will in time. So these are
Okay.
disparate devices presently. However, the overarching theme is to pull this information together from disparate devices and create algorithms that allow us to get those unique insights and interventions for patients or consumers.
Got it. So let's go back and let's talk a little bit more about my care and about
Mhm.
how it helps provide support to a caregiver as well as an older adult.
Yeah, so I think, for me, I think it has a lot to do with, collection of information, but it's also dispensing of that information. So it's from a health literacy and empowerment and engagement perspective. There's also a social inclusion and connectivity component as well that's utilizing the MyCube Monica digital health coach as well. So I think that we see this both as a data collector as well as the dispensing of information to those who are, I'll say, teachable or want that information.
And what kind of information would it dispense to a senior living at home?
Yeah, so I think it would be possible, and I'll use some examples. Maybe medication education. So maybe you were prescribed a particular medication that you have not taken before, and the ability to get information around that medication. as well as it could also potentially, in time, be able to provide any contraindications for medicines that you may already be taking. So that would be an example of some of the insights, and that it creates the connectivity piece that we're talking about, because as part of Samsung Health, with an opt-in to Samsung Health, you can provide much of your personal health record information, and we can cross-intersect that information that we get from the personal health record versus the information that's inbound from the MyCare Monica platform.
I just love it. It's so fascinating and so powerful to help a caregiver that much. I saw Christine put a comment in the chat about how Samsung is championing the needs of caregivers, which is really so necessary right now. So thank you for doing that. And now let's also talk about another type of technology in the home that you feature, please.
Yeah, so we brought in, and again, this is one of the three that I would characterize as that discrete, non-invasive attribute, Tembo Health, and Tembo has personalized care plans and support for dementia care, and they utilize a millimeter wave health sensor that allows them to collect information about the activities of and the well-being of consumers in their homes. So I would say that those are the three products and services that we bring forward that have those same attributes that we're looking for.
Got it. Got it. So let's talk a little bit more about Tembo Health, if you can give us some direct uses for it, how it's impacting an older adult. And I would love to be able to educate our audience more about that.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to their care and their goals and their overall quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't measure it, then you don't know how to react to it. And that device in a home allows for that. And then they also have all of the care stream and the care providers that are necessary, inclusive of behavioral health and specialists that can be available upon demand for utilization for that population, along with their caregivers as well. So it's a kind of a 24/7 concierge support for seniors and their caregivers living with dementia.
And what does the actual unit look like?
Yeah, so my memory of it is a little bit bigger than a deck of cards.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember it being all white. I don't believe that it's in a color. So
Yeah.
again, it's intended to be discreet so that it doesn't necessarily draw attention to it. It's really intended to be kind of hidden in plain sight.
Okay. Yeah, I remember too, kind of like being an alarm console with several buttons on it. And where do you see this headed in your dreamland of Samsung integration? Where do you see this headed?
Yeah, so I would say that the CES 2024 showcase was wildly successful. It met and exceeded our goals and objectives. So I see this continuing to expand upon that effort into CES 2025. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that the team that I'm part of,
Yeah.
we probably vet dozens of solutions every month, and we're in some form of conversations with companies that bring value to consumers, and we've got our own metrics around that. So I would say things like personal safety and security, which are two very different things, are going to be part of the Samsung Health House. I think that that's foundational. I could see us integrating in medication management, and medication compliance as well. And I think that this probably hits home for both of us, is that the persona that we're building around is typically, and I speak in generalities, an adult daughter who is responsible for the care of not only herself, but her partner or spouse, and that of children who may or may not be at home, as well as parents or in-laws. 75% of all caregivers are female. So we're building that so that they can manage across that multi-generation medications, care coordination, communication with the caregivers. So I think you'll see us continue to lean into that persona and build out solutions that are of value there.
That's awesome. That's really impressive. You may have heard me refer to this in the past as sandwich tech. I came up with that a couple of years ago because I'm in the sandwich generation. I've got parents I'm taking care of, and I've got children I'm taking care of, as well as my own household. So there's a lot of things that I am running and monitoring, right?
Absolutely. Yes. And I think that you're not alone. Based on statistics from AARP, there's 44 million of us out there that are caregivers that are not getting reimbursed for support to our adult parents or others. So
yeah, it's overwhelming. So I do appreciate everything that you're doing in this space. And what I want to do right now is address any audience questions. So if you do have any questions and you want to pose them to us, we're going to go ahead and answer them now. I did see that Gary, I believe, submitted a question about how when it comes to hydration focus, so connected to the well-being, how does it connect to family and distant caregivers, for instance?
yeah, so that's a great question. We are evaluating different technologies right now. So think about a smart water bottle that would allow us to be able to monitor and measure the consumption of liquid, that could also provide nudges to the consumer to be able to drink or consume, right? So it could be a numeric score. It could be a color, red, yellow, green, depending upon where you're at in consumption throughout the day. So that's an example of the tech that we're looking at, the AgeTech.
Okay, wonderful. And we also have a question from Dale. So Dale loves the AI capabilities with the knowledge of the majority of consumers that are tech dependent rather than tech savvy. Hello, are there any training tools to educate end users to use the products effectively?
Yes. This is also an area that we're thinking about in terms of the last mile, right? So there's not only the installation of the product, which I think that we can help overcome, but the ongoing service and support of that and how to educate. So we're thinking of that, and without getting into many details, I can assure you that is part of our product roadmap and our strategy roadmap.
So let's talk about that for a minute. The end user. Now, I am so involved in this piece because I feel like as technology evolves, there's less and less explanation, less and less education around implementing certain things like that. I feel like the older adults are just handed technology and expected that they're going to know how to use it, right?
Yes.
Kind of like leaving the hospital with the baby for the first time, and you're like, here you go, good luck to you. So there is that piece. And so you're calling it the end mile, is that right?
Yeah, we're calling it kind of the last mile piece,
Mile.
right? Yeah, it's great to create the technology. It's a different thing to be able to deploy it and get adoption and utilization of it and the understanding of why it's in place. So we're very mindful of, I don't think that this generation of seniors is tech scared, right? I think that they actually want to embrace
Yes.
tech to be able to allow them to continue to live in place or age in place. What I do believe is that there's some apprehension around how do you go about doing that, and some of the traditional paths right now around education and that customer support is challenging. And not to speak in generalities, oftentimes it can be offshore. Oftentimes there's not a social DNA component that's built into that verbal component to understand that you may need to take a little longer. You need to be able to explain yourself a little further. And it's not going to be a 3-minute conversation. It may be 5, 7, 10-minute conversation. So being able to pace yourself around that. So we're mindful of that, as well as we're looking at kind of a one-to-many education component. So we're looking at how do you create an educational environment that allows for the products that we're recommending to be able to be educated on around and delivered in not necessarily a one-to-one ratio, but one-to-many ratio.
I have many ideas about that.
We'll take them.
Many ideas about that. So we also have had a couple of people asking about how to get in touch with you if they want to have their product evaluated. What would be the best way for someone to go about that?
Yes, I'm happy to provide my email address. I can do so through the chat, or if you would like to distribute out to others, I don't know what the best method of doing that is.
I think we have your LinkedIn profile information and we can go ahead
That'll
and
work too.
post it here. Yes, perfect. Thank you, Jada. And then anyone who wants to get in touch with you can reach out to you via LinkedIn. And, what I want to know from you is, what are you most excited about in this whole arena? Like, what keeps you passionate? What keeps you fueled in this area?
I'm going to be a consumer of it, right? I think we all will be at some point.
Yes.
Much like you, I'm in the sandwich generation myself.
Mhm.
So I am mindful of what I'm creating is impactful to my family, and I
Yep.
want to extrapolate that out. So there's a little bit of, I'll say, selfish motivations there, but my hope is that those selfish motivations permeate outward to those that can benefit from it. So I would say I'm the perfect case study for what to design and what not to design.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Ken, I just want to thank you for coming on to Tech Tuesday, for educating us, for sharing what you're involved in this innovative space. And is there anything else you want to share with our audience right now?
No, I think for all of those that are attending this, I think it's fantastic that we're getting a groundswell around
Mhm,
age tech. I
mhm.
can assure you that CES 2025, as well as other activities,
Yeah.
are going to be amplified versus that of this past year. So,
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I'm very excited about that to see the future of this growth development. Do you think the house next year will be 2 times as big? Yeah,
yes,
yeah, for
yes.
sure. So, and I know that we have links about the Samsung Health House, and we'll go ahead and put those in right now. And if anyone has any further questions about it, feel free to reach out to any of us at any time. I want to thank those in the audience right now and the people who participated in the chat. Thank you so much for being part of this discussion. And we will see you all back here next week.